धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So a very warm welcome to all the devotees who have come for this evening Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Thank you very much. Today, since it's already 8:20 now, I promise I won't extend beyond 15 to 20 minutes. But we are going to have a very important discussion today. And this is one of the best topics, the best chapters in Bhagavatam that we can discuss. And since last few days you might have already been discussing this chapter, a very beautiful chapter, the first canto, second chapter, which is known as Divinity and Devotional Service. This chapter especially speaks and gives you some very wonderful hints or reveals certain secrets of bhakti. And for every sadhaka, it's important, especially this chapter. Just for your information, amongst Acharya's commentary that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and other Acharyas have written, they have written very elaborate commentaries on this particular chapter, especially because this chapter forms foundation for a sadhaka, for any devotional activities that we wish to do, right? So today we are going to discuss something important. Today we have a very beautiful verse that I've been given for discussion. So before I begin, small request. Many of you have already switched on their videos. Thank you so much. But if possible, just in case you're comfortable for next 15 minutes, you can switch on videos so that I'll feel some encouragement while speaking. Okay. So this particular chapter, as I mentioned, speaks about certain important hints or important secrets for our devotional service, right? So I'll just share the screen. So some days back, you might have, today I'm supposed to speak on the 17th verse, but we'll discuss from 2-3 verses behind, and then I'll come to the 17th verse so that there is a connectivity between these verses, right? So if you remember some verses back, around 13th verse, we had discussed that whatever activities that you do, Ata Pumbir Dvija Shrestha Varnashrama Vibhagashah Swa Anushtitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. In the 13th verse of this chapter, we had discussed that whatever activity one is doing, if you are working, if you're a housewife, if you're a student, or whatever you're doing, Bhagavatam says you should do it for the pleasure of Supreme Lord, right? Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. It has to be for his pleasure, then that activity is meaningful, right? Is meaningful. And so in the next verse, in the 14th verse, it says that therefore worship Supreme Lord, tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan satvatam patihi shrotavya kirtitavyascha dheyas pugyascha nityada. So what should a human being do? He should either hear about the Lord, and after hearing he should speak about the Lord, and after hearing and speaking, automatically you will remember about the Lord, and that's what you should do. But somebody may question that, oh, these so many activities I'm not able to do. Hearing, speaking, remembering, all this is very, very difficult to do. So then Bhagavatam, then it says, see, if you hear and speak and if you remember, what are the benefits? Bhagavatam is saying, Yad anudhyasina yuktaha karma granthi nibandhana chindanti kovidas tasya kona kuryat katharatim. Right? This is the 15th verse. It says that if you constantly remember the Supreme Lord, this remembrance of Supreme Lord, it acts like a sword. ये एक तलवार की तरह है. यद अनुध्यासिना युक्तः कर्म ग्रंथि निबंधनः. This sword of remembrance of Lord is like it acts like a sword with which all the knots of karma, all the piles of karma, bad karma especially, which you have accumulated, it can be cut off in one shot. Kona kuryat katharatim. It is asking, who is there in this world? ऐसा कौन है जो one who would not want to hear about the Supreme Lord, the Katha of Supreme Lord? Why? Because just by hearing, you can cut off the karmic bondages. Now, what was happening is one of the students with whom I was discussing this particular chapter, he was telling, Prabhuji, you are telling that hearing Bhagavatam and remembering about the Supreme Lord is supremely auspicious, but I am not finding any interest in Bhagavatam classes, right? Because when I sit for Bhagavatam class, I feel like, when will this class get over? Like, I don't know, many of you, hopefully many of you are not feeling like that. But the student was telling me that, Prabhuji, when I sit for Bhagavatam class, you are telling that it is nectar. It is like the third verse says that it is the supreme nectar, drinking. But I'm not able to feel that nectar at all. So then Bhagavatam next verse says that why somebody is not feeling interest in hearing Bhagavatam. Many of us may also be in the same line. We may be sitting for Bhagavatam classes, but when there is a IPL match going on, we may be interested to watch that rather than sitting for Bhagavatam class. So Bhagavatam next verse, the 16th verse, explains the reason why we are not feeling interest, even though it is the best nectar, the best ambrosia that one can drink, but still one is not feeling any interest. Why is it so? What is the reason? Bhagavatam next verse explains, because there is lack of faith, right? If you don't have faith, Shraddha, to hear about Krishna, then you won't find any interest in Bhagavatam class. So, Bhagavatam 16 verse says that Shushrusho Shraddhadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. So, in order to develop interest in hearing Bhagavatam, so this is a clue. If there are some parents who are listening to this Bhagavatam class and they also feel ki, Arey, I am practicing devotional service, but my children are not at all interested. Whatever we say that they hardly are interested in hearing Bhagavatam. They are more interested in PUBG games, or they are more interested in some Hollywood movies. So Bhagavatam says that Vasudeva Katha Ruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha. When we serve Bhagavatas, when we serve devotees, or when we serve the book Bhagavat or person Bhagavat, that is when we develop some faith or some interest in hearing about Krishna. Otherwise, it is not possible. So Bhagavatam itself is giving a clue that when will somebody develop interest in hearing Bhagavatam, right? Otherwise, many of us may also find sometimes Bhagavatam very interesting, sometimes very boring, right? Or we may want somebody who is our near and dear ones, and we want them to develop some interest. So Bhagavatam is saying, if you serve devotees of Lord, then automatically the interest for hearing Bhagavatam will arise within you. If you serve devotees in some way, or if you serve Bhagavatam, the book Bhagavat or person Bhagavat in some way, then automatically you will develop some interest in hearing Bhagavatam. That is why it says, Shushusho Shraddhadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. Now, till this point, we have discussed. So, before moving on to today's shloka, just one important point. We all know that bhakti begins with faith. है ना? भक्ति कहाँ से शुरुआत होती है? श्रद्धा से. Bhakti begins with faith, but it begins with adhav shraddha. Adhav shraddha means we all have some faith, little bit faith, right? So there are many people around. You also see they go to temple on festivals. They regularly visit temple. They have some faith, right? That there is Lord sitting in the temple and he's there to listen to my prayers. But this faith is very, it's a weak faith. It may not be strong faith, right? So first, our bhakti begins with adhav shraddha, little bit faith. But if we want to strengthen that faith, then we need sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha. So that's what the 16th verse is saying. If you want to strengthen faith for the Supreme Lord, if you want to develop interest in hearing Bhagavatam, then take association of devotees and serve them, serve devotees. You know, when you serve Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nish. So when you serve devotees, your faith will become stronger. But in association of devotees, what one should do? One should practice devotional service. So that is what we are going to discuss today. That when we say the word bhakti, so this is a question to all the devotees online. According to you, when does bhakti begin? Or what is the preliminary step that we should take in order to begin bhakti in our life? Any answers quickly? Shraddha, yeah. Shraddha is when bhakti begins. Shraddha is something within the heart. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the activity that one should do in order to begin bhakti. Yeah, Shruti Mataji is telling, hearing from a devotee, chanting, inquisitiveness, going to temple. Okay. Hearing, correct. So, according to Bhagavatam also, our bhakti begins by hearing. This is the first medium. This is the first place. Pravishta karna randrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti shamala krishnaha salilasya yathashrat. The sound vibration enters through our ears and enters our heart and cleanses our heart, right? So that is why when we chant, we say, please hear the holy name, right? When we sit for the Bhagavatam class, we say, please hear attentively. Because spiritual sound vibration enters through the ears, and through the medium of ears, it enters our heart, right? So this is the verse that we are going to discuss today, which is a very important verse. It says the importance of hearing. Now it spoke that now you need, for faith, you have to serve devotees. And once you serve the devotees, once you develop faith, what you should do, you should hear about Krishna. You should hear about Krishna. And when you hear about Krishna, what will happen? So for next 10 minutes, my sincere request to all of you all, you can try to pay attention. So we are going to discuss this very, very, very important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you're ready for it, we'll just, and Prabhupada ji has written a beautiful purport on this. So let's recite this verse together. Shrinvata swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani Vidhunoti suhrit satam. So now, here in this particular verse, Bhagavatam is telling why we should hear, right? Why we should hear, and what happens when we hear about Krishna, right? Shrinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana, right? First thing which Bhagavatam is telling is punya shravana kirtana. When we hear about Krishna, it is the most pious activity, right? People in this world are looking for some piety. लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? पुण्य कमाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. They are trying to increase the punya piety account. So what do? They go to some old age homes and orphanages and try to give donation, try to help the poor, which is very good. One should do it. One should serve the society in selfless manner. But here Bhagavatam is saying that amongst all the pious activities, the topmost piety is to hear and speak about Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, to hear and speak about Krishna. And as a result, what happens? As a result, something really amazing happens. And what is that? Hridi antasto hi abhadrani. See, Bhagavatam is very specific. हृदय के अंदर छुपा हुआ जो मल है, abhadrani, whatever is hidden within the heart, right? Because what happens when our senses come in touch with the sense objects, right? We want to enjoy that sense object. But this enjoying mentality, it doesn't go away just by enjoying that sense object. It goes and takes shelter deep within your heart. And the same tendency will keep coming again and again and again. Hriti antasto hi abhadrani, whatever is hidden within your heart, vidhunoti. So it is saying, just by hearing Krishna Katha, whatever anarthas, the lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, everything which is hidden within the heart, which is hidden within deepest core of your heart, is completely cleansed. Vidhunoti. Somebody may ask that how is it possible that just by hearing Krishna Katha, the deepest of anarthas within our heart is cleansed? So the last two words, that's where the answer is lying. Suhrit Satam. So here, Suhrit Satam means Krishna is Suhrit. Krishna is your closest friend, of whom Satam, he is the closest friend of the devotee. So Bhagavatam is saying, when you hear about Krishna, the deepest desire within your heart, material desire, is cleansed. How? Because Krishna himself takes a broom and cleanses it from our heart, right? What is important to understand here is that a devotee can never cleanse anarthas within his heart with his own endeavors. He can only depend on Krishna, and Krishna can clean it if he desires to do so, right? And Krishna has the capacity to do so. So here, what is being mentioned is Hridi antasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. So Krishna is your benefactor. He is your greatest well-wisher. And Krishna himself will get into the heart and clean it. Now, as I was saying, I was discussing this chapter with one of the students. So he was asking that it seems that Krishna is very selfish, right? He was telling, Krishna is telling that only if you hear about my katha, Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtan, then I will come and clean the anarthas within your heart. So he is demanding that I will clean your heart, but first you have to hear about me. You have to glorify me. Punya Shravana Kirtana. You should hear and glorify me. Then I will clean within the heart all the anarthas in your heart. So what do you think? No, is Krishna too selfish that he's telling only if you hear about me, then I will clean your heart. If you hear about something else or someone else, then I'm not going to do anything for you, right? So is Krishna too selfish? Some wonderful devotees online can try to answer. No. Okay, why? Because Krishna is telling only if you hear about me, then I will go deep within your heart and clean all your anarthas. And now Krishna should have told, okay, if you hear about anybody in this world, if you hear about some superstar, some film star, still I will come and clean within your heart. Then Krishna would have been selfless. But here Krishna is seeming as if he is selfish, right? Why is it so? Okay, here, because Krishna itself is Supreme Personality, all other things are within Krishna. Okay, Krishna boost if we have faith in other God. Krishna boost. Okay, Krishna is the main source. He's telling the truth, so he's not selfish. He's beyond Maya. Jivas are not. Okay, because he's beyond material realm, so there is no need to hear any other katha. Okay, so this answer, whatever you have spoken, is correct. But if you want the exact answer for this question, there is in Bhagavatam 10th canto, in Krishna book, there is a discussion between Krishna and Rukmini, right? Krishna is also telling Rukmini the same thing. Rukmini, why did you marry me? No, you did greatest foolish activity by marrying me, because Shishupal was there, such a wonderful prince was there. You should have married him. No, he was so qualified. And she fainted, correct. So after she fainted and she came back to her normal position, she answered this question. So if we don't talk about Krishna, I was talking to the student who asked me this question, whom are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about some sports star or film star or some politician. And these people, they have a limited lifespan. Today they are there, tomorrow they are not there. Their fame is there today. It will not be there tomorrow. The film stars who were known some 50 years back, they are not even being talked about today. So everything in this world, everyone in this world is going to fade away. No, they are within this material realm, as one of the devotees said. They have beginning, they have end, right? And their fame or their position, any football player or anyone, it's not permanent. And neither, because if they are handsome today, tomorrow they are going to grow old, right? So anyone other than Krishna, if we take shelter, we are definitely going to regret today or tomorrow, right? But Krishna is one such personality who is absolute truth, whose beauty, opulence, nothing fades away. And he is your greatest well-wisher who is going to be there with you all along, right? So Krishna is not selfish in telling that you hear about me. Krishna is telling that you hear about me because he understands that I am the only one who's going to be there with you all the time, right? So Krishna is saying that if you put endeavor in hearing about me, then I will do my job of cleansing your heart, right? So you do your part and I will do my part, right? That's what Krishna is telling. So here, this particular verse, here Krishna is telling that hear about me, Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hriti Antasto hi Avadrani, Vidhunoti Suhrit Sita. So first part is in our control, that we can at least show our eagerness to cleanse our heart by hearing Krishna Katha. But by hearing Krishna Katha, Krishna will take charge of cleaning our heart, and that's when our heart will get cleansed of all the dirty things that is there. Here Prabhupada is writing a beautiful purport. If you give me 2-3 minutes, we'll quickly discuss this purport. Prabhupada is writing, messages of Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as Lord personally. So what is Prabhupada telling here? That when we hear about Krishna and when we speak about Krishna, it is Krishna himself who is available there. Krishna himself is present there, right? That is why it is so powerful, right? And we can approach Krishna through the medium of service to pure devotee of the Lord. That's what we discussed. If we want to approach Krishna, we cannot directly approach. When we serve devotee of the Lord, we develop taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. So here Krishna is telling that, here Prabhupada is telling, second paragraph, the Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back to his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. So Prabhupada is telling that what is Lord doing? Lord wants to see our desire, whether we have desire to go back to Godhead. And this desire we can express by hearing about him, right? And Prabhupada is telling most of us do not have that desire only. We are happy in this material world. But if we show one small sincere desire by hearing about him, then Krishna is ready to offer us all the help in all respects. That's what Prabhupada is telling, right? Very, very important purport, this one, right? And Prabhupada is telling one cannot enter the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desire to lord it over material desire. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for devotee making progress on the path back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in devotional line fell victim to these allurements, thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by Lord himself, the whole process becomes easy as anything by divine grace of Lord. So Prabhupada is telling the material desires, it's not so easy to overcome. It's very, very difficult. Many, many big stalwarts have fell for women and wealth. But when Lord himself takes charge of helping a devotee, then the process becomes easy, right? We all know the story of a small sparrow who wanted to dry up the ocean. A small sparrow can never ever imagine to dry up the ocean. But when Garuda helped the sparrow, then it could dry the ocean. So we are all like that small sparrow. The anarthas within our heart is oceanic. We can never ever fight with the anarthas which is there within our heart. But we can cry out for help from the Lord. And when Lord takes the responsibility, then it becomes easy, right? And Prabhupada is telling how difficult it is to give up material desires. To become restless in contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from remote time, practically time immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing of the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind, right? So what happens? This I have discussed before also. When we hear about the Supreme Lord, what happens? The quality of our desires change. The quality of our desires within the heart, they change, right? And when the quality of desires within the heart changes, then Krishna will help us, and with Krishna's help, we get sufficient strength. We get sufficient strength to deal with the anarthas, right? See what happens. Everybody in bhakti, they feel occasionally some pleasure in bhakti. Sometimes we like to go to temple. Sometimes we like to hear Bhagavatam. Sometimes we like to do kirtan. Sometimes we like to do chanting. But what we need in bhakti is commitment. we need consistency, right? And that is called as Nishtha Bhakti. And how to attain Nishtha Bhakti, that is will be discussed in the next verse tomorrow, right? But how to begin Bhakti by your endeavor is to start hearing about Krishna and take help of Krishna. And when Krishna comes to help, and when Krishna comes to help, then what will happen? Everything within the heart will be cleansed, right? So I'll stop here. There's a question. I'll try to quickly answer this question. Please explain what is mentioned in 10th canto in relation with respect to discussion between Krishna and Rukmini Devi. Yes, Krishna was teasing Rukmini Devi when Krishna was telling that actually you did a big mistake by marrying me. There were better kings in this world who could have given you better name, position, better wealth, and they were more chivalrous Kshatriyas than me. I am simply a cowherd boy. Things like that. So when Rukmini Devi came to her consciousness, she places arguments in return to what Krishna is telling. And one of the primary arguments she's telling was, whoever in this, whichever kings whose name you are talking about, they are all perishable. This Rukmini Devi is telling. They take birth out of their karma, they have to die, and but you are the absolute truth, and you are existing since time immemorial, and you are the only shelter of everyone. Any other shelter, if somebody takes, that is an imaginary shelter. So Rukmini Devi is speaking wonderful points in glorifying Krishna and why Krishna was her choice, and she's explaining in 10th canto why Krishna was her choice, and it was her right choice that she had made by choosing Krishna. So this you can yourself read, Mataji. I have myself read this in Krishna book only. You can read it in Bhagavatam verse by verse if you wish to do. Okay, so I think we can end the session here. If there are any questions or any comments, I'm available because it's already time and we are there since 7:30. So better not to delay any further. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for coming online and paying and attentively hearing the Bhagavatam class, which was actually the topic which we discussed today, that hearing attentively is something which we can do as sadhaka. We can try to do as sadhaka, and Krishna will do his part of cleansing our heart, right? So let's pray to Krishna that help us in cleansing our hearts, and let's do our part of hearing about Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.